theme for this back half of the week. It is understanding the labor market, understanding where jobs are, where they aren't, where they may be in the future. The perfect person to talk about all of that is Irina Novoselsky. She is the CEO of CareerBuilder, joining us on the phone. Irina, really nice to have you with Carol and myself.
Thank you. Good to be on.
So what's the most important thing we need to know about the labor market right now? We're getting a lot of data inputs, but you're seeing a whole other set of data, or you're seeing all of that data, but also some of your own. Help us understand, I think, especially at this moment where we're thinking about economic inequality, we're thinking about different opportunities and different effects that these various crises are having on folks. What's the most important thing we need to know?
I would say there's a few things that we should keep in mind. From a data perspective, like you mentioned, it's hard to think that only a below 2 million in claimless jobs getting added is a good sign, but it actually is a good sign. It's the first time since over the past 11 weeks that we've been below the 2 million mark. So that's positive, moving in the right direction. We're also seeing across CareerBuilder job boards and other boards that we work with that for the last 3 weeks in May, we saw job posting gains, which means more companies are posting jobs. The last week in May, we saw a drop, but really over the last 3 weeks overall, we saw progress, and that brings our overall decline to 37%, which sounds like a lot, and it is, of course, but it's actually meaningfully less than some of the other countries around the globe, with UK at 70% and New Zealand at 60% and France at 50%. So while we definitely have some work to do, we're seeing some positive signs. As far as your question of what does that mean for companies and for candidates, well, in the span of 11 weeks, we've almost have 42 million Americans unemployed. And so one of the things that implies is there's going to be a big, great American rehire. And how do we as candidates prepare for that? And how do we as employers prepare for that? And you touched on this, but one of the things that's really going to be critical is the 40 million of jobs that got lost. It wasn't equal around how it got lost. And really, especially now in the conversation with the current spotlight on inequality and social injustice, we really have an opportunity to make this not just a moment in time, but really leverage employment and hiring as a significant way we can impact the current conversation. Because if you look at unemployment today, our Black community is at 17% unemployment. Our Hispanic community is about 19% compared to the white community that's at 14%. So we definitely have to keep that in mind as we're going about the great rehire and keeping in mind the wage gap. We were at 61% of Black Americans were making 61% of what the median white household income was making.
That is a I just want to pause for a second. That is a staggering figure to me, and I do think it's like one in a series of things that I think we are rightly really emphasizing this week, because when people say, well, how did this all happen? That's how it happened in many ways, right?
It's definitely one of the ways we can help address it. And Jason, you said it's staggering. What's even more staggering for me is that 61% of median white household income. That's a recent number. It's really only moved from what it was in 1970 at 56%.
That's where I want to go. Okay, so this is not, oh my God, we just woke up and there's a problem. This has been going on for decades. You work with companies, you work on placement of individuals with jobs. Why isn't it better, significantly better, Irina? And, we had a really smart observation from Ann Maletti over at Wells Fargo earlier, who said, we've got to stop going back to the same pools, the same recruiting places, for workers, because you just kind of get the same old workers. So tell me, you see it firsthand, what needs to change dramatically?
Right. You hit on it, Carol, but there's two parts to this. One is the biases that we have in our hiring process, whether they're explicit or implicit. Some examples are the way that we write job descriptions. They use certain words that might elicit non-diverse members to apply or diverse members to apply. How resumes are viewed. What are you looking for? How are they discarded? How interviews are conducted? And those both implicit and explicit biases, we now have technology that can allow us to do better. And there's really no reason that HR departments and companies shouldn't be leveraging this technology. And it's where we've been working with our clients that really want to move the diversity numbers, have really been leveraging that. On the second side, you hit it on the head where you said are you hiring where there is diversity? And one of the things that we see, and we have an employment social referral tool that we leverage with a lot of our clients, but that works when you have a diverse set of employees. Because if you're doing it when you have a monochromatic and a very homogeneous demographic in your company, then all you are doing is further instilling that. Right? So how do you make sure that you're leveraging the right tools in the right places? And with many of our clients, we talk to, where are you advertising your job boards? Are you leveraging that in places that are more diverse?
Are they? But are they? And have they been?
Not always.
Yeah.
Not always. Now, a lot of companies go to what's tried and true, and then they want better results, and that's very difficult when you don't change the approach from the very beginning, right? And one example that we've worked with a client that was really eye-opening for them and for us is they really were looking to hire diverse grads out of college. And one of the things that when we did our consultative assessment, we saw that the universities and the degrees at those universities they were targeting, even if they hired 100% of that class, they wouldn't get as many diverse candidates as they were looking for.
Yeah.
So we started in a different spot and said, we're looking in the wrong way. And we leveraged some of our supply and demand tools and said, actually, here's where you should go look. And all of a sudden, the diversity stats started moving, or even basic things on how we're hiring today. And a lot of actually what we're seeing is virtual hiring, virtual networking is allowing people to have a different kind of conversation than the much more stereotypical interview process.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really interesting point, and I wish we had more time to talk about that specific point because I think it's so interesting. You're going to have to come back and spend some more time with this. Irina Novoselsky, she is the CEO of CareerBuilder, joining us on the phone. That opportunity that we have to sort of rethink it because we're relying much more on technology, but we have to make sure that we use technology in the right way at this moment and that we don't just fall back to where we were
because there's biases also in technology.
Totally.
The other thing is, I'm just going to say, Jason, you can go to an educational institution, but if minority groups don't have that same access to that education, you're still not going to get a diverse enough workforce.
Right, and that's it. I thought that the example she gave was really spot on.